Melt the resistance and open your heart with Transformation Thursdays.
Hello and welcome to Transformation Thursdays. I am Jay Dubois and we are here today with Altimese Nicole. Hi, Altimese.
Hello, Jay. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing
Good.
well.
Glad
Thank
to
you for
hear.
having me.
Yeah, thank you for coming. So, for those who don't know her, Altimese is an award-winning best-selling author, publicist, brand strategist, and founder of the MBE certified digital marketing and public relation firm, the Ezra Agency. Beyond her agency, she's a mother, daughter, friend, and diversity champion. Yes, committed to bringing representation and access to the forefront of business. Thank you for doing that, Altimese.
Of course. Of course.
I know you to be passionate about diversity, and I also am. What? How does this come about?
Well, I was in corporate America until about 2019. I started my company in 2016 and it was like zero intention of being a full-time entrepreneur. It was meant to be an additional stream of income as I grew in my career and climbed the corporate ladder. While in corporate America, I learned to play the game. Like I learned quickly. There was actually a class at Turner when I was at Turner. They offered all of the employees different classes and resources, and there was a class called politics and influence or something to that nature. But it talked about the importance of understanding the power of networking and the importance of aligning with company culture and office politics, and understanding that no matter what, you are playing the game or you are getting played. It's one or the other. So you decide which side you're going to be on. You either decide to get played by the game or you play it. And I think I was like 22 in this class, fresh out of college. And I was just like, I'm going to play the game. I was like, I'll play. So I played the game, and I did not realize until after the layoff that the game played with, it included microaggressions that I, at the time, either glazed over or tucked away and just said, oh, when I become a leader of a team, I'll never do that. Or when I become a leader of a team, I'll make sure to reinforce this. But I, just kind of kept going. And it wasn't until I had an amazing project with Coqual. And I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they're actually, they're a resource to large organizations that have diversity and inclusion departments. And they give them all this research from like Harvard and do all these focus groups and studies. And I helped them to revamp their website. And in that process, they shared a lot of the research with me. And there was one research paper that they shared, and it was called Being Black in Corporate America. And Jay, I read it and I wept. Like, wow. I didn't realize how I experienced that and had not that I didn't have any idea, but I think it was just, you brush it off, you laugh it off, and you just say, ha ha ha, funny, ha ha. Like when in reality, you're like, what? Like in your head, that's what you say, but out loud, you kind of make sure you blend in so you don't stand out.
Yes.
And that became, like, after working on that project, that became like a serious driving force to my company and why I do what I do.
So I really want to hear more, but so two things. One, for those who don't really know what a microaggression is, can you tell us, or maybe give us an example or two? And I also really want to know what was on that report that made you cry, that was that powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. So microaggressions are essentially like those mini moments of passive aggression toward like race, ethnicity, gender, where it comes off kind of okay, like it doesn't alarm in the way that pure discrimination does,
Mm,
but it is triggers. The underlining tone of it is indeed racial bias.
mm,
An example that I experienced, I remember I was probably 20, 23-ish. And I had a supervisor. I truly believe he did not realize what he was saying. I think he was trying to like, and maybe this is me just giving, I always want to think the best of people. So like, but I really believe that he just wanted to connect in some way. And I had just gotten my hair braided. And I
mhm.
walked in his office and he was like, "Ooh, girl, is that a weave? Like, did you get your hair did?" And I
Oh,
was mortified.
oh,
I was mortified. And I was like, I was like, no, this is not weave. This is a braid. And after that, I didn't wear braids in the workplace again until I became a director and I had my own team.
wow.
And that was years. That was
Wow.
years before I did that. So that's like an example. Or
Mm,
like another one would be, I remember worked at a place that was like pet friendly.
mhm,
So we had dogs and things like that. And I remember being up at the front desk and one of my friends, she walks up to me and at that time, I allowed myself to be free to wear my natural hair. And I had my natural hair just in her wild glory. And and my friend, she comes up and she like pets me. And she's like, "Your hair is
Ooh.
so soft, like cotton." And I was just like,
Mm.
ah. But then I was also like at a place where I was like, what? So I pet her back and I was like, yeah, yeah. Like, but that was like my way of being like, that's not okay. But I don't even think she realized it
Mm,
either. And maybe again, that's me wanting to see the good in people. And it was something similar in that research where like
mm,
a lot of the people who participated in the research, they were sharing their experiences and sharing how microaggressions impact them and the examples that they had. And I was blown away
mhm,
by, the stories that people were sharing that they had to endure
mm,
in corporate America to just get ahead, um, or not even just to get ahead, but to be recognized
mhm,
as like a valuable team member that
mhm.
can move up in the organization. So it was eye opening. It was eye opening.
Because of their similarity with your experience, I would imagine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I was like, what? And as I'm reading it, it just brought memories. Like it filtered up memories that, I kind of tucked away. I was like, whatever. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I just knew I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to be that person. Like when I became a director, my team was probably the most diverse team in that agency. Like I
Mm.
made sure of it. Like I was like, there's power. Like I made sure of it. I was like, and one of my team members, they were like, because at that point I was like, I'm wearing my natural hair. Like I don't care. And one of my team members, she was like, I want to thank you for like just creating a space that allows me to come to work with purple hair and not feel like it's a problem. And
Oh.
I'm like, girl, yeah, you can wear your purple hair. I don't care. That like that's not impacting your work. Who cares? Like, but
Yeah.
those are the things that, people may not feel safe doing in corporate America in fear of retaliation or in fear of being able to move up or whatever the case may be. So
Right.
I made it my priority. And then in my business, it's the same. Like my team now is at our largest, we spanned 5 continents.
Wow.
Right now we have a social strategist in Portugal. my operations director's in Pakistan, and my assistant, she's in Nigeria. And we brainstorm ideas, we talk about things and share what's going on in our side of the world and infuse that into how we work with our clients.
That's amazing. It seems like it would be challenging to work with people across the globe like that in real time. Do you find it challenging, or tell me
Not
about?
at all. Not at all. It's actually, it's refreshing. Because, I remember when COVID was happening, and it's the peak of COVID, and we were able to share the experiences of how it was impacting our side of the world. And I remember in that moment, one of our team members at the time, she was in Johannesburg, and they had a law that you couldn't, it was like, you couldn't wear sandals, you couldn't wear flip-flops, you couldn't go outside after 9, like literally. And I'm like, what?
Wow.
All because of COVID. Like, it was like, you know what I mean? And it was like, what in the world? Like,
sounds like an excuse.
Yeah. And she was like, when the vaccines came out, they were watching America debate over getting vaccines when their side of the world wished that they could get a hand on vaccinations, like, so they were just, it's so humbling. And, it definitely keeps perspective, because the things that we think are so important or so whatever, there's someone else dealing with something totally different, and that would switch seats with us in a minute.
So the Ezra agency, you do PR and social media management, and that's your company, that's your baby. Can you tell me more about what you do and what that's all about? Like, why this for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So it aligns with everything I've done in corporate America. And when I started my company in 2016, I realized then that, I was managing millions of dollars in paid advertising with Meta, which was then Facebook Inc., with Google, with YouTube ads, and when you have that amount of budget to spend, they tell you how to win. They don't have you guess. You get your own rep. They come visit you. They tell you what's working, what's not working. They help guide you in the campaigns. And I was like, small business owners, they need this.
Right.
You know what I mean? They need this kind of information, because they're the ones that's literally trying to figure it out. This budget that we're working with was set aside and allocated by, a big enterprise organization that will either use the money or lose the money and have it allocated to another department. Whereas a small business owner, their ads, whatever they decide to do, it rides on the livelihood of the business. Right. So I started to package it up, and that's actually how my first book came along. It literally was a tips and tricks for social media, and literally gave a little handbook in the back, just kind of giving ideas of how to be successful on Pinterest, how to navigate Instagram, and all of these. And
what's that book called?
Brandticity. So it's branding and authenticity combined. Brandticity.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. So I was just I gotta take all of this knowledge that I've gained over the years and then just share it. And it's been a big blessing. Social media was always thrown to me, because Jay, you see my face? I look like 16 on a good day.
I know. All right.
On a good day. So in corporate, that was another thing I dealt with a lot, because I look so young.
Yes, right.
They were just you look too young to know, but they would throw social media at me. Literally, they'd be like,
right.
Altimese, you want social? And I was smart enough to say yes.
Right.
So every time they would be like, you want it? I'd be like, yeah. And they'd be like, oh, and they're like, okay, here, take it. We don't want it. And like all throughout my career, that's how I built relationships with Meta. That's how I got relationships with people at Pinterest. Like we always got reps. So I always had the relationships with them. And it turned out to be like one of the biggest blessings, because that's essentially how, like, that foundation is how I started the company when I got laid off. I took that knowledge, I packaged it up, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna just give this knowledge to my clients. And it's worked so far.
Yeah. I'm excited. I had, we worked together at the nonprofit, and I'm really glad we're having this conversation, and I'm gonna use you better as a resource.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I had no idea how broad your knowledge was. I hear you talking about the business. I hear you talking about diversity, and I can tell, like many of us, you've been suppressed and kicked around, and you're living, you're helping, you're helping people like you wish you would have been helped, it seems like.
Yeah.
Right. So is that what gets you going, or what is it? I don't want to assume.
Yeah, no, that's great. Okay, so I'm going to give you a story, a little bit about the history of how Azar became Azar, because before it was Azar, it was just Altimese Nicole Enterprise.
I see.
I was married, and I found out probably about 3 weeks right before our 1-year anniversary that we were experiencing infidelity. And it hit me to my core, because I did all of the things right. I did all the things like biblically that you're supposed to do. And I was just like, what in the world? Like, I was angry, but then I was also told to stay, and I'm glad I stayed, because now I have Ayana, totally different story there. But like, I was just like, what in the world? Like, this sucks. As a woman, it sucks. Like, why do we have to go through this? And I remember watching Super Soul Sunday. Oprah had on Glennon Doyle, and she is the author of a book called Love Warrior. And I was so fascinated by the conversation. I was like, oh my gosh, I gotta check this book out. And essentially she shared her memoir about, her relationship with her husband. And, she cheated for years, and, she was going to church trying to heal. And this lady kept calling her a warrior. And she was like, what? Eventually she says, what are you talking about? Why are you saying that to me? And she said, did you read Genesis? And she's like, yes. She said, read it again. She said, go back and study and read it again. And she went back and studied, went back to the original text of the creation of Eve. And God referenced Eve, Azar, which means warrior. And it means to help or to save. So when Adam woke up, Adam called her bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. I call you woman, man with womb. God did not. God called her a warrior, and called her to help to save Adam. Right. And when I realized that, I was like, oh my gosh, like, no wonder there are so many women that go through so many crazy things, and they don't even look like the things that they've been through. They come out not even smelling like smoke from the fire. They just, they radiate, and I was like, oh, because we're warriors, like, we're designed for battle. Oh, okay. Like, and it literally changed how I approached everything. Right. And it made me stronger in advocating for women and girls. Like, I advocate for women and girls. I remember after I decided to change the name to Azar, that was a whole conversation with God. And God was just like, one day I was driving to Atlanta, and he was just like, I was like, what is the name? I know it's not supposed to be this. It's not supposed to be mine. What is it? And I was asking for weeks. And I was like driving to Atlanta, and my spirit said, look at your arm. And I'm like, what? And I'm driving with this hand.
Oh.
And I have a tattoo of Azar, the Hebrew
Oh, wow.
Azar. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like driving and I'm like, what? And I look and it was like it was like
Oh,
light bulb
wow.
moment. And I was like, oh, the company is Azar. And
Oh.
like maybe a couple weeks later, I'm sitting on the couch early in the morning, listening to, motivation, just meditating. And God says, oh, by the way, the agency is designed to help young girls and women all around the world. And you're going to have a nonprofit, and the
Wow.
agency will be the largest funder. And that's how you will get your nonprofit funded, through the agency. And I was just like, what? Like all of it. And then it was just a download. And I was like, whoa, that sounds like a big thing. But at the time when he said it, I realized he literally put me in position to where I have team members all over the world that align with the mission. They align with the vision. So when I shared that with them, they were like, yeah, I'll run it. I'll operate. Every single one was like, yes, when we're ready, let's go. Like, so it's just been, yeah. So it's been a journey, and my heart is with little girls who feel like they're silenced because we're supposed to be seen and not heard. And we're taught to be good little girls and make sure you sit this way and all of that. And we grow up to be women who barely accept ourselves because we think we're supposed to act a certain way, be a certain way, have this gentle like spirit that doesn't speak up for themselves kind of thing. And that's not exactly what we're supposed to be. And I realized that, there's power in the perspective of women when we operate in unity.
Yes.
There's a insight that we have that is indeed supposed to help, and it's supposed to give a different perspective to our partner, or it's like the sounding board to if he has the vision, we're like, hey, watch out over there because this is happening over there, you know what I mean? So I have a big heart for that, and just making sure everybody feels seen and heard.
Wow, what a powerful story. I had goosebumps through half of it. Really, I really resonate with that. And now I like a lot of pieces are fitting together. I'm really glad that we've had this conversation, and I'm kind of sad that it's going to stop. But how can people find you? Like, how can people work with this amazing vision?
Yes, absolutely. So you can find me and the company through the Azar Agency, which is THEEZER Agency, everywhere, literally everywhere. So Facebook, it's the same, the Azar Agency. And I am Altimese Nicole, literally everywhere. And that's ALTIMESENICHOLE. And that's how you can find me.
Great. Thank you so much. We will post those in the description below. Thanks so much for your time. It's been great.
Of course.
I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Please like, share, and subscribe. We equip people with the skills to navigate the ups and downs of life. Will you help us solve the mental health crisis? Please donate to Compassionate Transformation at lovect.net. Thank you, thank you, thank you.